The mall was supposed to be a quick stop. That's what I told myself when I pulled into the parking garage on a Tuesday evening in early November. The air had that sharp, cold edge to it. The kind that makes your nose run before you even step out of the car. I just needed to return a coat my sister had ordered online, grab a birthday card for my mom, and get home before 8. Maybe 45 minutes, tops. My daughter was with me. She's 9. She had her purple backpack on, even though we weren't going to school, because she carries that thing everywhere, like it's attached to her. She was telling me about some kid at school who ate an entire eraser on a dare, and I was half listening, half scanning the garage for an open spot on level 2. We found one near the elevator. I parallel parked, which I always mess up the first time, and she laughed at me the way kids do when they think they're being generous about it. "You almost hit that pole," she said. "I didn't though," I said. "I didn't though," I said. "Almost," she said again, very seriously. We walked toward the elevator together. Her hand looped through my arm the way she does when she wants to feel grown up about it. The garage was dim, the way they always are. Those flickering fluorescent strips that make everyone look a little sick. A few cars. An older couple loading bags into their trunk. A man in a gray jacket talking on his phone near the stairwell. Nothing felt wrong yet. We took the elevator up to the main level and pushed through the glass doors into the mall. It smelled like cinnamon from the pretzel stand near the entrance, and my daughter immediately asked if she could have one. "After," I said. "You always say after," she said. "Because after always comes," I said. She considered this for a second, then accepted it, which is one of the things I love about her. We went to the shipping counter on the East End first. The line was short, just one person ahead of us, a man returning something in a box so large I wondered how he'd carried it in alone. The woman behind the counter, her name tag said Bev, was moving quickly and efficiently in the way that people do when they're good at their jobs and would rather be somewhere else. I handed over the coat still in its bag, showed my confirmation email, and it was done in 4 minutes. One thing down. We found the card section at the bookstore next. My mom is hard to shop for, not because she's picky, but because she's the kind of person who insists she doesn't need anything, and then cries when you get her something thoughtful. I was staring at a card with a watercolor hummingbird on the front when I felt my phone buzz. A text from my neighbor. Her dog had gotten loose again and she wanted to know if I'd seen it. I texted back a quick no and looked up to see my daughter crouched near the bottom shelf, reading a card out loud to herself in a voice that was clearly meant to be funny. I smiled. Everything was fine. We paid for the card, tucked it in my purse, and I was checking my watch when I noticed a man near the bookstore entrance. He wasn't doing anything in particular, just standing there, looking at his phone. Medium height, dark jacket, baseball cap pulled low. I probably wouldn't have noticed him at all, except that when my daughter and I came out of the store, he shifted. Not dramatically, just slightly, the way a person does when they're recalibrating where to stand. I told myself I was being paranoid. I do that sometimes. Single mom brain, my sister calls it. You notice everything because you have to. We walked toward the pretzel stand because I had promised after, and after had come. The mall was moderate for a Tuesday. Families, a few teenagers, some older folks doing their evening walk. Normal. I handed my daughter a napkin and watched her tear into a cinnamon pretzel with the kind of focus that only children and surgeons have. I was thinking about whether I needed to stop at the grocery store on the way home when I saw him again. Same jacket, same cap. He was at the edge of the food court, maybe 40 feet away, looking at his phone. Again. Or still. I turned as so my back was to him and pretended to be looking at the directory on the wall. My heart had kicked up a little, but I kept my voice normal. "You want lemonade with that?" "Yes, please," she said, not looking up from the pretzel. I pulled out my own phone and opened my camera under the pretense of checking something, angled it back, and took a photo of the area behind me. When I looked at it, the man was there, and there was another man now, closer to the main entrance, similarly dressed. dark jacket, cap, standing still in the way people don't stand still. I knew that feeling. I'd had it once before, a long time ago, before my daughter was born, when I'd walked to my car in a parking lot and just known, that something was off. I'd gone back inside that night and called my brother and waited. Nothing had happened then, but the feeling had been real enough. This felt the same, heavier even. I paid for the lemonade, told my daughter we needed to use the restroom before we left, and steered us toward the family restroom near the center corridor. Inside, I locked the door and took a breath. I needed to think. We'd come in through the parking garage on the east side. The elevators opened up right near the main entrance. If someone was watching the main entrance, and that second man had been close enough that I thought he might be. Going out that way felt wrong. There was a department store anchor on the west end, a different parking structure on that side. We hadn't parked there, which meant we'd have to come back for the car, but right now, getting out and into a public place felt more important. My daughter was watching me in the mirror. "Mom," she said, "are you okay?" "I'm great," I said. "Just tired." She didn't fully believe me. She's 9, not 4. But she nodded. I texted my brother as we came out of the restroom. I told him where we were, told him what I'd seen, told him I was probably overreacting, but I was going to the west entrance anyway. He responded in about 30 seconds. "Go now, I'm calling you." My phone rang. "Walk," he said. "Don't run. Keep her close. Talk to me." "I'm walking," I said. I had my daughter's hand now, held easy, not tight enough to scare her. "Is she okay?" "Yes. She's eating a pretzel." "Of course she is," he said. We were passing the shoe store, the phone case kiosk, a jewelry store with a sale sign in the window. I was scanning ahead, scanning behind. The man in the dark jacket was not visible, but that didn't mean anything. "There's a security office near the west anchor," my brother said. He'd looked it up. "Side of the building, before you get to the doors, go there." "Okay, don't stop for anything." "I'm not going to stop," I said. My daughter tugged my hand. "Who are you talking to?" "Uncle Kevin," I said. "Tell him I said hi," she said. "She says hi," I said into the phone. "Hi, sweetheart," my brother said, and his voice was steady, but I could hear what was underneath it. The security office was exactly where he said it would be. It was a small room, really, a door with a frosted glass panel and the word SEC Urity stenciled on it. I pushed it open without knocking. There were 2 guards inside. A man at a desk with a monitor bank in front of him. His name tag said Oscar, and he was probably in his mid-40s, the kind of man who looks like he takes the job seriously. And a younger woman near the back who was putting on a jacket like she was heading out. They both looked up. "I'm sorry," I said. "I think someone might be following me. 2 men. They've been tracking me through the mall." Oscar was already leaning forward. "How long?" "At least since the bookstore on the east end. Maybe longer. I don't know if they followed us in from the garage." I pulled up the photo I'd taken. Shaky, not great, but you could see them. 2. I saw for sure. He took my phone, looked at the photo, then he turned to the monitors. "Sit down," he said, "please." My daughter and I sat in the 2 chairs against the wall. She'd finished the pretzel and was wiping her hands on her jeans. I put my arm around her, and she leaned in without making a big deal of it, which is exactly who she is. "Kevin," I said into the phone. "I'm with security, Oscar." "Good," my brother said. "I'm getting in my car." "You don't have to." "I know I don't have to," he said. Oscar was scanning through the camera feeds. The younger guard, her name tag said Priya, had come to stand behind him and was looking at the screens too. The mall cameras were better than I'd expected, clear enough to see faces. "There," Priya said quietly, pointing at one of the monitors. I couldn't see what she was pointing at from where I was sitting. I watched Oscar's expression instead. His jaw tightened slightly. "There's a 3rd one," he said. "Buy your car." The words landed like cold water. "Buy my car," I repeated. "Level 2, blue Civic?" He looked at me. Yes, I said. He was already on his radio. I heard him call it in, heard him say something about the east garage, heard a code I didn't recognize. He looked at me again. Don't go back to your car yet, he said. We're getting police out there. Do you need to call anyone? My brother is already on his way, I said. He's going to call the police too. Good. He nodded. You did the right thing coming here. I sat there with my daughter and I kept my voice even and I answered the questions he asked. What I was wearing when I came in, what time we'd arrived, whether I recognized either of the men, and I did not let myself think too hard about what would have happened if I'd just walked back to that elevator the way I'd planned. My daughter eventually asked if she could play a game on my phone. I gave it to her, and she sat there next to me, playing something with bright colors and cheerful sounds. Completely at ease the way children are when they trust that a parent has handled whatever needs to be handled. I was not at ease, but I kept it below the surface, which was the best I could do. The police arrived quickly. 2 officers who spoke with Oscar first, looked at the monitors, then came to take my statement. One of them, a woman with dark hair pulled back under her cap, was patient and clear and didn't make me feel foolish for noticing something that might have been nothing. I appreciated that more than she probably knew. 3 individuals, she said. 1 on each side of the garage, 1 at your vehicle. That's not coincidence. No, I said. I didn't think it was. She asked if I had any idea who might want to follow me. I thought about it honestly. I'd gone through a difficult separation 14 months ago. Not violent, but bitter, with a lot of lawyers and a lot of tension over the custody arrangement. The final order had come through 6 weeks ago. My ex had not taken it well. I mentioned it. She wrote something down. Was he ever threatening? She asked. Not directly, I said. Indirectly, a lot. She nodded like this was information she knew how to work with. 2 of the 3 men were detained in the garage. The third had apparently left before officers got there, but they had him on camera clearly enough. Oscar showed me, afterward, the footage of my car. The man had been standing behind it for at least 20 minutes, which meant he'd been there before we even went into the mall. That was the part that made my hands shake later, when I was in my brother's car with my daughter asleep in the back seat. 20 minutes before we'd even gotten there, he had known where we'd be. Kevin didn't say much on the drive home. He's good that way. He put the radio on low, something soft and unremarkable, and drove, and let me sit with what I was feeling without asking me to label it. When we got to my apartment, he came up, checked every room the way he does without announcing that he's doing it, and then sat at my kitchen table and made us both tea while my daughter changed into pajamas and found her stuffed elephant and fell asleep almost immediately in that deep, uncomplicated way that children have. I sat across from him and wrapped both hands around the mug. You noticed, he said. Eventually, I said. No, he said. You noticed before anything happened. That's the whole thing. I'd been thinking about that in the car, about how easy it would have been not to. About how many times I've talked myself out of a feeling because I didn't want to seem paranoid or dramatic. About how I'd almost done that tonight. Almost told myself the man in the dark jacket was just a guy in a mall. I took a picture, I said. That's what made the difference. I made myself take a picture instead of talking myself out of it. That's good thinking, Kevin said. I was terrified, I said. You were terrified and you thought clearly anyway, he said. That's different from not being terrified. The police called the following day with an update. All 3 men had been identified. 2 were connected to someone my ex had hired. That was the word they used, hired, to intimidate me around the custody situation. The third was a different matter and they couldn't tell me more about it then. The investigation was ongoing. There would be charges. My ex's lawyer had already called my lawyer, which my lawyer described to me as extremely telling. I'm not going to pretend the weeks after that were easy. They weren't. I spent a lot of time looking over my shoulder. I downloaded 2 different safety apps. I varied my routines in ways that felt exhausting and also necessary. My daughter noticed that I was more careful, but she didn't push me on it, which I think is her way of being gentle with me. but something else happened too. Something smaller and harder to name. I started trusting myself more. Not in an abstract, inspirational poster kind of way. In a practical, specific kind of way. I started paying attention when something felt off and not immediately overriding it with logic. I started taking pictures when I was uncertain. I started telling people where I was going, not because I was afraid, but because connection is a form of safety I'd been too proud to use. My sister said that night changed me. She meant it as an observation, not a criticism. I think she's right, though I'd describe it differently. I don't think it changed me. I think it reminded me of something I'd always known but kept forgetting, that the instinct to protect yourself and the people you love is not paranoia. It's intelligence. It's the oldest kind. My daughter still carries that purple backpack everywhere. She asked me once, a few weeks later, if I'd been scared that night at the mall. Yes, I said, because she's 9 and she deserves honesty. What did you do when you were scared? She asked. I kept moving, I said, and I asked for help. She thought about this with the kind of seriousness she applies to things that matter to her. Then she nodded once, like she was filing it away somewhere important. Okay, she said. That's what I'll do too. I didn't have anything to add to that. Some lessons you spend your whole life learning and your children understand in 30 seconds. That's the thing about them. They cut right to it, no noise, no detour. Just the plain, clear thing. Keep moving. Ask for help. I've been doing both, every day since. I've thought a lot about that Tuesday evening. Not obsessively, I'm past that stage, but in the way you return to something that quietly rearranged you. What I keep coming back to is how ordinary everything felt before I noticed. The pretzel stand, the cinnamon smell, my daughter reading birthday cards out loud in a funny voice. None of it felt like the setup to anything. It just felt like a regular errand on a cold November night. That's the thing about danger that doesn't announce itself. It shows up wearing the same clothes as a normal Tuesday. For a long time, I told myself that noticing things made me anxious, paranoid. That the instinct to pay attention, to clock who was standing too still, to feel the difference between someone passing through and someone waiting, was a flaw I needed to manage. I spent years learning to talk myself down from it, convincing myself I was overreacting, choosing to look away from the thing I'd already seen. I don't do that anymore. What saved us that night wasn't luck, and it wasn't anyone coming to rescue us. Oscar and Priya and the officers who showed up, they mattered enormously, and I'm grateful for every one of them. But they only came into the picture because I walked through that security office door, and I only walked through that door because I stopped dismissing what my own eyes were telling me. I took a picture instead of talking myself out of it. That's it. That was the turning point. My brother Kevin said something in the car on the way home that I've been carrying with me since. He said, "You were terrified and you thought clearly anyway. That's different from not being terrified." I've turned that over probably 100 times, because I think I used to believe those two things couldn't coexist. That fear meant your thinking was compromised. That calm meant you weren't taking the threat seriously. But that night I was both at once. Scared enough that my hands were shaking, clear enough to keep moving, keep my daughter close, keep making the next right decision. That's not a talent. That's a choice you make in the moment. And the more you practice trusting yourself in small things, the more available that choice is when the stakes are real. The harder part to sit with is what I learned about where the threat came from. The custody process had been brutal in its own quiet way. The lawyers, the hearings, the months of uncertainty. I'd come through it thinking the worst was behind me. I hadn't considered what someone who felt they'd lost might do with that feeling. I should have. Not to live in fear of it, but to stay clear-eyed about the reality I was actually in. That's the part that felt most like a reckoning. Not the parking garage, not the men on camera, but the moment I had to accept that I had not fully protected myself because I hadn't wanted to believe protecting myself was still necessary. My daughter asked me what I did when I was scared, and I told her, I kept moving, and I asked for help. I meant it practically. But thinking about it now, there's more in those two things than I realized when I said them. Keeping moving means not freezing in the place where you feel most exposed. It means making the next decision even when you don't have all the information. It means forward, even when forward is uncertain. Asking for help means knowing that your own strength and someone else's strength are not in competition. Oscar's training, Kevin's steady voice on the phone, the officer who didn't make me feel foolish for being afraid. None of that diminished what I did. It completed it. I think about the kind of person I want my daughter to grow up to be. Someone who pays attention. Someone who trusts what she sees. Someone who isn't too proud to walk through a security office door and say, "I think something is wrong." Someone who keeps moving when she's scared and knows how to ask for help when she needs it. I'm still working on being that person myself. But I'm closer than I was before that Tuesday, and that's enough to keep going.